today we've got with us Janet Marie Borg, and she's a deaf celebrant harpist. She plays conscious sacred ceremonies to bring healing and a sense of peace and tranquility for all. So, Janet, please do tell us, how did you get into this, and what do you love about it?
Hi, Rob.
Hi.
Good to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too.
Thank you. So I live in Melbourne, Australia, and I've been doing this work for about 4 or 5 years now. And the harp came to me, the ancient way of playing harp came to me, which is very different to Western music. I've dabbled in Western music, Eastern music, and Middle Eastern music. This way of playing the harp is often referred to as thanatology or monastic harp, as it was played in ancient civilizations, when both music and medicine combined to bring healing. And it's a way of playing where there are no chords. If you understand music, you're not focused on chords or a repeatable beat or pulse. Right. When you have a repeatable beat or a pulse, it mimics the heart and it keeps you conscious. And what we're endeavouring to do is allow people to unbind and release and let go. And it's often referred to as a clearing of the soul. Okay. So it's used to enable people to transition if they're terminally ill, or bring healing and serenity if they're not passing.
So you obviously...
I've been doing this in hospitals, mainly palliative care,
right?
Including children in Melbourne, many leading hospitals in Melbourne. I've also worked a lot with people in chemo, oncology and complex care, women with birth difficulties, and also very vulnerable sick little babies that could be drug addicts, or they could be preemies that don't have long to live. And often people say to me, how do you work with poor little babies? You must have a lot of courage. But in my world, it just brings me so much joy that I can feel compassion and love for little babies. I can't do anything about them passing, but if I can bring them a little bit of joy, it brings joy to my heart.
That's absolutely incredible. It's lovely to hear that, and what beautiful work that is to do. So in your bio, again, it says that you don't only play for funerals, and obviously you're talking about playing for children in hospitals. Have you had some degree of success with people healing that obviously weren't terminally ill, but have recovered well and come and seen you again later on after their healing?
Yes, I have. Look, I've had so many amazing experiences. I played for quite some time at the Royal Children's Hospital, and I had mothers that were bringing their children to the hospital when I was there, and they would say what I was doing with their children was more effective than morphine, or at least complementary to medicine. Let's say complementary to medicine. I've had people that have been deaf, so they've been able to demonstrate that they can't hear, but they can feel the vibrations, so they can feel that it's soothing them on some level, which is so beautiful. I've had people that I've played to in oncology that have asked me, requested that I play at their funeral because it's touched them so much, and they wanted to ensure that I was at their funeral. So that's been extraordinary for me too, to be at someone's funeral knowing that I played for them in their last days.
Yeah.
So that led me, that playing harp as an ancient modality in hospitals and nursing homes led me to celebrant work. So because I realised that death is actually a process for all family and friends, not just for the dying person. Everyone goes through their own trauma and grief and bereavement. And so, along with some other wonderful practitioners that I know, together we've worked at co-creating funerals, so that it becomes a bit shamanic in a way, in that we take people through a journey to feel their trauma, feel their grief, and also release it.
Yeah, it's important to let go, isn't it? When my father died, I was quite young. I was 15, and I think I bottled it up for years, really. until, funnily enough, I went to see a shaman, and I went to that place of fear, and it all came up. But it had been repressed for years. So I think what you do is remarkable, and again, you know, letting go is something that I think most people find incredibly difficult to do. And one of the people on your page that I visited left a lovely statement about you, which was, she reminds us through her music that death is just a door, one we must all walk through. With Janet, we remember to do this with grace and peace and from the heart. Holding space for a dying loved one is a sacred act, akin to helping them give birth to themselves into a new reality. How wonderful is that? So that must make your day when you have these affirmations of what you do.
Well, that one was really interesting, Rob, because I went to visit my friend's father, and she was there with her whole family. So for me, I get to see the family dynamics with the father.
Mm-hmm.
And on that occasion, I was playing harp and I was holding his hand, and I was playing and soothing him, and also praying and watching all the family. You know, you can imagine the dynamics at play. And after I stopped playing harp, I realised that just my presence was perhaps even more important than the harp. What I was really doing was connecting at a soul level, and that's when she said she saw her father's face, and it had touched him, you know, really touched him. And the other interesting thing, and this has happened to me a few times, the following day I purged. I felt really sick, and at that moment I knew he had passed, and at that moment she rang me and said that her father had passed. So I somehow am able to tap into when that's happening. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Your father, so was he sick for very long?
He was bedridden for the last 5 years of his life. He was very old when he died. He was 83. And the last 5 years were tricky because he had nothing. He was a very independent person, and he had nothing to do by the time he was bedridden. So he drank himself into a stupor most days. Yeah. So for the last, I was 15 when he died. So he, in those 5 years, I think I stored up a lot of bad energy, because he wasn't giving off his usual positivity when he was a younger man. But I would have loved to have had the opportunity to have you play and perhaps not carry around the grief for so many years.
Well, my mother also died when I was very young, and she died when I was 13, and she died at the age of 33. So I actually watched her dying over a 7-year period. But what I've come to understand is that sometimes our deepest traumas are actually a gift that take us on our path. And so if I look back on that now, that was really my hands-on training to do this work and to feel comfortable with death. I've also I trained as a psychologist, so I've got, you know, credentials behind me, and I've done a lot of big picture work. But to have felt loss, to have felt grief, gives you a deeper understanding, as I'm sure you can appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the hardest things to go through for anybody. But there's I'm not sure you were aware of this, but in London now there are these places springing up all over the place called death cafes. Have you heard of these?
They're in Australia too.
They're in Australia too. Okay. Well, please take it away and tell us what they are. And do you play in these places at all? Or?
Well, we've actually got dinners by death now too.
What's that? Dinners by death? That sounds quite worrying.
So we've got the death cafes because suddenly death is on the agenda. People want to be engage in conversation and dialogue around death and share their feelings. And in fact, there's a trust here in Melbourne that owns most of the cemeteries. and they've invited me to be on their advisory board. They own 19 cemeteries, and again, they want to reframe death, and they want to reframe cemeteries because people think it's taboo, you know. Dead people are buried in cemeteries, and that's all it's for. And now they feel they've got a role in educating and bringing this subject to the table. So it's all wonderful. And in the news in Australia, it's quite prevalent too. Media is really addressing issues like euthanasia, voluntary euthanasia, and whether we're meant to die in hospitals, and reports showing that most people actually want to die at home. We just don't have the infrastructure and facilities to foster dying at home. But we all want to feel that we're not alone, and we all want to feel that we're with our loved ones.
Yeah.
And we all want to create our own way of dying. And so often people forget to think about how they want to die, how they want to transition, what it means for them. So opening up the conversation is wonderful so that we don't suppress all these mixed emotions and mixed feelings.
Exactly. Yeah, I've been talking to a few people about these death cafes. I haven't actually been to one myself, but I know plenty of people who have, and who've really found it a very worthwhile process. And some of the people who I've talked to about them who haven't been have said, you know, what's the point? You go there and you talk about someone in your life who's died. It sounds very depressing to me. But I don't think that's how it works, is it? You go in there and you talk about the idea of what you want to do with your life before you die, and then you can talk about, if you were to have a hero's death, what would it be? How would you die? Going out saving another life, for example. Or
that's right. That's right. We've also got the Day of the Dead, which is coming up on the 13th of November. So rather than just a cafe, this is a whole day of people coming along and celebrating and remembering those that have passed. And I'll be playing harp there too.
Oh wow, amazing! Yeah. One of the things about that I find is that in the past, people used to do that so much more, right? They'd celebrate their loved ones who passed away, their ancestry, going back and back and back, further back than I know that we ever do now. But in a way, it seems with these death cafes, with the work you're doing, and many others, that this is all coming back, and we're remembering. You know, and evolving to a point where we're understanding so much more about death again, and that we shouldn't let it be this taboo, or that it scares us, because, well, we all, no one gets out alive. No.
One thing for sure, we're all going that way.
Exactly. And a great topic of conversation we were having the other day was about the fact that you don't bring anything with you into the world, and you don't take anything out with you aside from your experience and your memories. And a little boy was here not that long ago, and he was talking about having a conversation with his father, which was it went like this. He said, "Dad, I reckon that when you die, my idea of heaven is that everyone comes to your funeral and they dance and they talk about you, they laugh, they have fun, they remember you. And my idea of hell is that when you die, the only people that turn up at your funeral are the ones there to make sure you're dead." and maybe worse, to spit on the grave or something like that. And then no one remembers you, and no one, because you didn't live a fulfilling life, and with service to others and being a good person from the heart space. So yeah, I'm quite optimistic that a lot of what you do is very important and should continue to grow. And more of us need to be able to let go of these things a lot easier than we currently do.
Well, we all do, don't we?
Yeah.
We've forgotten about rites of passage.
Sure. Yeah.
We've just become so busy and preoccupied in the Western world. We've forgotten about the sacredness of these really important times in our lives. And it's a beautiful thing. And look, so many people are having the conversation, but I also do on occasions, when I feel aligned with the values, like Deepak Chopra, the neuroscience of enlightenment, I felt incredibly honoured.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Deepak's wonderful in his understandings because he's a scientist, he's a doctor, so he's got that background, but also understands how the two work together, spirit and science work together.
Sure.
And so it was beautiful. He gave a wonderful presentation for 2 days. And there are some other, I've been invited to play at all Hay House events, like Eckhart Tolle will be coming, Doreen Virtue, etc. But also in about 3 weeks, there's an event called Creative Innovations Global with some really high level, high level corporates.
Okay.
Global corporates, and I'll be playing at events like that. Again, the values are aligned because they're looking at the future and the well-being for the planet, and this is all part of it.
Yeah.
So it's about really creating allies, not enemies, working with people and looking at where we meet.
Sure. Yeah, because we certainly need to be looking at the planet as a whole system now. Not separate, as has been the case for so long. I've just been given a question for you here, and that was: would you consider playing harp at in a festival atmosphere?
I have played harp in a festival atmosphere.
Yeah.
A few times. I have a friend who has this. I don't even know how you describe this machine, but when people are coming off drugs, it helps to clear the chakras, and he's had me playing harp there. I have played, so that's a healing modality or a clearing modality, but I've also played in open settings like festivals. I tend to focus more on doing the work with dying people. That's really my focus, but I'm open. Open to. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Well, because it's kind of a lead-in question.
Oh.
Well, we're organising something called Global Freedom Festival.
Great.
It will be, yes. We hope it will be absolutely incredible, and it's going to be, for 2018 or 2019, depending on obviously how much we can arrange and how quickly. But listening to you talk, we'd love to invite you to come and experience it with us. It's going to be all over the planet on different sovereign land, all over the planet. So perhaps there'll be one in Australia. We certainly hope so. And if you are around at the time, then you're very much invited to come and be a part of it.
Wonderful. It's wonderful work you're doing. Lovely to see John's found a new, bigger picture, aligned project.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. At the Synergy Hub here in Rotterdam, we've got...
Where are you?
The Synergy Hub in Rotterdam, in Holland, the Netherlands. And we've got a lot going on here. New technological platforms to improve the internet. We've got new social architecture ideas, water projects, garden projects, environment projects coming through, just endless things. And I'm here filming it all and about to raise awareness through putting out the films on the internet about NewMap and the water project and the Global Freedom Festival and many other things that we're trying to do. And every voice counts.
Absolutely.
And
yes, I'd love to be involved.
Sorry, say that again.
I'd love to be involved.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful news. Brilliant. Okay, well, we've got a couple more questions for you, if that's all right.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. So, in the work that you do, with the co-creating part, how can other people get involved? And if they're listening now and they'd love to come and support your work, how can they do that?
They can find my website, Soothing Your Soul, www.soothingyoursoul.com.au. And my website has a lot of information. Well, I share stories, I share testimonials, and I share photos because I think the photos say a lot. You see me with patients, with children, and they're not high quality photos, but the pictures show the emotion and the feeling behind the work that I do. And I share a lot of stories about my experiences, and really happy to hear from anyone on their interest and how they might like to be involved, because no one owns death, no one owns HARP. We're in this together, working together.
Exactly, we're all in the same boat. Exactly, that's wonderful. And just say your website one more time, and we'll put a link on for you when we've put this together, and we'll put it out. We can send it to you first so that you're okay with it, and then put a link on so that people can find your website. So please just mention it one more time.
SoothingYourSoul.com.au.
.com.au. Okay, that's wondrful. Okay, thanks very much, Janet, for talking with us this morning. I know you've got to go and help your son with car trouble.
Yes, I do. Okay, really lovely connecting with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, same here. It's been brilliant, and we wish you all the best with the car trouble and in the meanwhile. And we can talk again at any point, really.
Absolutely wonderful. I'm glad I thought, well, that's going on in the background, but yes, I did make a commitment. So I love John. We've connected for a few years now. Love his work, love his intention and passion.
It's great.
So love to be involved and stay in touch.
He's a beautiful guy, so it's wonderful.
Thank you, Janet.
He says,
pleasure. I mean it too.
Okay, thanks very much, Janet. Thank you for your time.
Bye.
Speak to you soon. Okay, cheers. Bye-bye.